All right, guys, welcome to a new episode of Behind the Visual, the podcast where I introduce you to all the people responsible for all those videos and images you see out in the world every single day. And today, my guest is Courtney Swift-Copeland, and she is the owner and creative director of Salt Paper Studios. And we're going to talk about how she went from living in Delaware as a kid to going to school in Georgia, to going back to Delaware for some work, to going to New York to work, and then coming back to the Carolinas where she's finally settled and has started her own company now after working for a few other companies here in the Carolinas. So we're also going to talk about what would be on her rider if she had a contract. What would the rider be, the unusual thing be on her contract? We're also going to talk about one of the coolest things that's happened to her since she's been in this business, which involves Adobe. And we're going to talk about how they get clients, and also why the name Salt Paper, the meaning behind the name Salt Paper for studios. So lots of cool little stories, lots of interesting conversation back and forth about the photography industry, how she's doing, how they've gotten so successful in such a short amount of time. It's amazing. She's a great person to talk to. She's a great person, and it's a really great studio. So anyway, check this one out. I think you're really going to like it. Let me know what you think about it. Like it, thumbs up it, subscribe, share, all that other kind of stuff. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the South? Did you grow up somewhere else?
No.
What was your family?
No, I grew up like mid-Atlantic, Delaware. I'm from. My family's all from the Eastern Shore, Maryland. I guess they came over into Crisfield, Maryland, seafood capital of the world. And then kind of moved into Baltimore and Newark, Maryland, Ocean City, Maryland. And then my parents moved to Delaware from there. So that's where I grew up.
You like Delaware?
Yeah, it's nice.
I've never been to Delaware, I don't think.
You've probably driven through it. You didn't even realize it. Takes about an hour and 45 minutes to get from top to the bottom of the state.
Okay, well, hey.
Pretty tiny.
Well, that part's good. At least you know somebody lives on the other side of the state. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Not a long drive.
Yeah, it's not too big of a haul. Yeah.
Were you like artistic when you were a kid? I mean, were you drawing and taking pictures and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I was actually just telling a friend of mine the other day, I was like, I remember my mom giving me a coloring book and I wasn't interested in coloring in it. I wanted to draw the pictures that were in it. So I would like sit there with a piece of paper. I remember drawing Bugs Bunny and I remember drawing the Tasmanian Devil and going, oh man, that actually looks like that picture. So, I mean, from as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be an artist. So I didn't think that I really knew what type of an artist. I just knew I wanted to make money at art. And I didn't, you know, again, being a gallery artist is such a beautiful thing, but just not in my interest. Maybe someday, maybe in retirement, but not for now. So
I think that's a difficult way to make money.
Yeah.
Unless you know the right people.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's such a saturated market, you know, it's like, takes so long to break through, but you could say the same for our world.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah. I just saw something the other day. It's like, you don't understand how much money, like family money, is in this business, especially in the photography and production and all that. So that's just come down. But, you know, a lot of these people get their breaks because daddy or mommy was in the business and famous and whatever.
You know, I have had that thought so many times. That's not how it worked out for me.
No, me either.
My dad's a craftsman. My mom was a dental hygienist. My dad was in bidding and estimating for a construction company my whole life, but he's an artist in his own right. Like, I mean, he does some really beautiful restorations and woodwork and things like that. So I guess that's where I get the art gene, but yeah, no one was in the industry and the money definitely wasn't handed to me. I went to SCAD and I remember like having to work so hard to pay for my supplies and my film and all of that. And, and not really understanding the concept of money when you go into college. Right. And then you very quickly become aware that like, holy shit, this is so expensive and I have to pay for like
Uh-huh.
like I'm on the hook for all this money when I get out of here, and no one's getting jobs. I came out of school in 2008 and like, I mean, no one was getting jobs anywhere,
Yeah. Oh,
especially
2008 is a
in
terrible time to
photography.
come out. Yeah. God.
So yeah, but it was funny because you go to school with like some super talented people, but you also go to school with people that their parents sent them to finger paint,
Uh-huh.
like, which is not very nice to say, but if anyone has gone to art school, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I get it. At least I think SCAD is worth money to go to SCAD. I guess I didn't go to SCAD, so I don't know.
yeah,
But it
I
seems
think
like
so.
people
Yeah.
have like, as opposed to what there was the Art Institute in Charlotte at some point.
Yep.
I worked with like two assistants from there. One of them didn't know how to raise
Mhm.
a C stand,
Yeah.
and she was in debt however many hundreds, tens and 20, 30,
Yeah.
50, 60, 70, $100,000 or whatever it was. And she literally, and
Mhm.
then one of my friends, an older assistant, was working there as a professor.
At the
And
Art Institute.
yeah, here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, you should come, see my class and this photography class and help me, critique." I was like, "Dude, you don't want me to," because I've seen some of the work coming out of that place, and
Yeah.
I was afraid I would just shred these people's dreams. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
everything I've seen coming out of like SCAD and up, up north out of New York, the art,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff, that
Yeah.
stuff looks to me like it's worth it.
VSA, I think, is a good one for like film. It's out of New
Yeah.
York, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I had some friends that went to after SCAD, they went up there and got their masters. I was going to go get my masters, and I had a professor that, because I was scared to go out into the real world.
Oh
I was like,
yeah.
oh, I'm already in debt. Let me just get more in debt. This will be
Uh-huh.
great. I'll just come out with like some more artwork that I can't show to anybody, and it'll be fantastic. And I had a professor that uh grabbed my shoulders and was like, don't give this establishment any more of your money. Go work for free. Just go work. I was like, okay.
Well, it was
So
probably smart. So
that's
what'd you
what
do?
I did.
So when he told you not to go to grad school and go straight out, what did you do?
I, I went to New York and I worked for a photo agency.
Did you?
Actually, yeah, you know what I did right out of school though? Like right after school, I was kind of debating whether or not I was going to go to New York, because everybody, they're like going to New York, they're going to San Francisco. And I wasn't quite ready to do that. So I went back to Delaware and I got a job as a long-term substitute teacher in the dark room.
Really?
It was so fun. It was at this brand new high school. It was not the high school I attended. Um, and so I taught kids that were 4 years younger than me how to do,
Yeah.
darkroom photography. That was interesting,
Oh wow.
but fun because everyone had elected to be in the class.
Right. So they weren't forced to
So
be.
they wanted to do it,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot actually. I think that it made me take a step back and learn my craft more deeply than I
Yeah.
had, because I had to regurgitate all of the
Oh
information, right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
It. So I couldn't just get by with like trial and error. I had to be sure about what I was
You
doing.
have to know your thing. You have to know your
So
stuff.
that was really good. And I really loved it. And it was probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I still think in retirement, I'd like to be a photo professor,
Yeah.
teach like 2 or 3 classes a week or something.
I
I
don't have
think
the
it'd be great. If
patience.
you were in the right spot,
I
I
think if you have the patience for it, it's great.
yeah.
My daughters asked me to help them with homework maybe twice each, and then they never asked again because I just,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not there yet. My daughter's 1. So maybe when she gets to that phase, I'll change my mind.
yeah, you
But
got plenty of
math,
time.
forget it. Like, I'm not going to help you with your math. I'm not going to help you with your English, like social studies, science, and art. I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Everything else I leave to my husband. He's the money guy.
I was good
He's
at
the
art and like English stuff.
yeah,
English and history, I was good with for whatever
yeah.
reason. But yeah, math, I took the same class. I think I took basically the same class 4 times because I took Algebra 2 Trig, failed the
Mhm.
last semester of it or the last, and then in high school had to take that over. Went to college, took basically the same class, failed it, and had to take it again. I'm like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
done with math.
Yeah. I mean, I avoided it at all costs. And it's until my husband came in. His degree was in personal and business finance.
Oh,
So
wow.
it worked out perfectly. So now he's running that side of our business, which is like amazing because it was getting, when we had gotten like some pretty regular large clients, it just got out of my hands. I mean,
Right.
turning that brain from creative to, business in every couple minutes is just not,
Uh-uh.
it's not easy.
No, it's
It's
not
not easy
fun.
at all.
It's not easy either. So when you finish the substitute teaching,
Oh
first
yeah.
of all, I love the dark room. I wish I could, like, I would
Yeah.
go in there for hours. I think I've been in there for like half an hour and it'd be like 3 hours to pass by. I'm like,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
kind
I
of
see
miss
your
that.
cameras behind you.
What?
I see your cameras behind
Oh,
you.
yeah.
But like a Hawkeye and is that a Hasselblad?
I have a Hasselblad. I think that's a Minolta, a Hasselblad. What's this one? I think it's a Mamiya. Yeah, that's a Mamiya.
The Mamiya.
That's a Nikon. Then I have another Mamiya, and that's
Nice.
something I think my grandfather had. Like it's
Oh,
literally
I see it.
check this thing out. Can you see that?
That's very cool. Just
Yeah,
little pillows. They're so
yeah.
cute.
It was. That was my grandfather's camera.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I do some film work when we travel, and then I do these little like diptychs out of them. So I might get like one a year, and they're usually waterscapes because we're
Oh
water
yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of 2020 I shot a lot, obviously, because I had
Mhm.
some downtime
Yeah.
and taking these like little remote vacations.
So
Um,
did you?
like
Where'd you get? So when you went to New York, you started working, and how did that whole deal go in New York?
so I was actually an intern. I went up there and interned for Casey, which is a photo agency up there. They used to be Marge Casey and
Oh
Associates,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
Casey now. Um, I worked with them for a while, not too long, about a year and a half. And I met some really great people up there. So I learned a lot. There were 13 photographers and 2 directors that we were repping. So I learned a lot about the business, and I started doing some kind of production assisting. So I learned a lot about that. Then I got hired on. It was funny being an intern because I was like an older intern. So that didn't last very long. They brought me on, and I was doing my minor is in ad design. So I was
Wow.
doing a lot of the newsletter work and like edits for portfolios, which was super fun because I love that stuff, like the curation of books.
Yeah.
Um, so that was cool. And yeah, and some light production work. And I learned a little bit, not enough to do it on a large scale, but I was working with a producer up there that kind of like took me in, and he taught me a lot about like his video production world and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. Learned a lot. And then I was like, the city's not for me.
Yeah.
So I came down to the Carolinas, and
Why?
I actually had a boyfriend down here that I had
Okay.
for a really long time. Um, and he lived in Winston-Salem. So I moved to Winston. And I lived there for a while, and I was doing some like, there was a startup company that had a bunch of little small businesses, and I was doing graphic work for them and photo for them and, art management, stuff like that. And that was kind of short lived. That was an interim type thing. And then I got a job at Belk. So I was commuting from, I was a producer and project manager there for in-house work. So I was working with the 6 different art directors they had, and almost small scale what I was doing at the agency, but for a corporate environment and not 20 different projects. It was like 20 different projects under the same roof.
Right.
So that was cool, and I learned a lot from that. And then
Were you commuting every day from Winston-Salem to Charlotte?
4 days a week.
4 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a flex Friday.
Oh.
God, because that saved me a little bit of gas.
So what's that, like an hour and a half? 2 hours?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
about. Yeah. But with traffic in the morning, more like 2.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
leave the house at 5:30 in the morning, and then, I'd get home at like 7. Wasn't it wasn't an ideal situation.
No.
So so I moved to Charlotte. I moved to Charlotte and split with the boyfriend. And then I worked for a textile company in Rock Hill and South Carolina, which is where I am now. And I built them 2 studios. So I was doing
Really?
all of their, yeah, the first one, not at the same time. The first one was this tiny little e-com space that we were shooting all of our textiles for the web shop. And
Right.
they were a business to business retailer, fabric by the yard, primarily, some soft goods, product development, things like that. So we would shoot their like all the products for e-com and web. And I got to the point where they started they started building these marketing packages for the big box retailers. So like Walmart and Hobby Lobby,
Oh,
Hancock.
yeah.
So I was shooting all of the products that were sold in, and I started doing some lifestyle work for them too. And some signage for these stores. And that was like the first time I'd ever seen my work on, on a sign.
Oh,
It was kind of
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked there for about 6 years, and then I parted ways with them and I started Salt Paper. And
So,
so some of my clients came with me.
okay.
At that time it was only textile clients. It was I had a yarn company that was external. So, while I was at Springs, I had gotten Red Heart Yarn, and they were based in Valentine. And so that was a pretty easy commute for them. And we shot 3 days of the month, and we, gave them a ton of content, probably more than we would ever give someone now. Cause
Right.
you're starting out
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, what do you want? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yep.
So that, and then the in-house accounts. And I got thinking like, I could do this. I could do this. I could do this on my own. So I went out and started Salt Paper, and then I brought our assistant with us. She was the assistant at the time. Now she's my post-production manager. She's a wonderful retoucher. Her name's Alexis Howard. So she helped me start everything over here. I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm leaving. And she says, well, where are we going? I was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to drag you along for the misery that might be ahead of me, but she's like, I'm in for it. Let's do it. So
That's
we
great.
did it. Yeah. And it's been good. It's been pretty good. So
Were you freaked out a little bit about making this move, or is this something where you just said,
yeah,
you know what, I'm just going to go for it, and it's all going to be good?
I don't know. I mean, I had under my belt the experience of, having started something from scratch for Springs. So I kind of knew what it took. The difference was I had someone else's money, and
Uh-huh.
then this was my money, which was super scary. But so my now husband was my fiance at the time, and he was like, I think you need to do this. I think you can do it. He was really in my corner. He was my cheerleader. So he supported us for the first, like, I mean, probably 3 years. And my goal was just to make enough money to be, you know, like contributing to our family, our small
Right.
family.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be like, because success to me is more being satisfied
Uh-huh.
creatively, being, comfortable enough financially that like I'm not hungry,
Right.
like that kind of thing. So that was the goal. And 3 years later, it just kind of took off, and he came over and started working for us. So now it's our
That's
business.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very
So,
cool.
and we've got last year, 2 years ago, we hired a full-time producer. So Stacy Nicholson is our director of production. And then actually her daughter, Mackenzie, is a producer with us as well. And
Yeah.
she is killing it. She's got Stacy's work ethic, and she's just amazing and a joy to be around. And then, Alexis, our post-production manager, last year in January, we brought on a creative project manager.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And then Justin and I, and we had a production assistant who is now an assistant retoucher. It's kind of like she came in, she went to App State, and speaking of colleges, App State has a really great photo program.
Yeah, I
I've been,
noticed that. I did.
I've been really impressed
Yeah,
with the App State.
I think they
Yeah.
actually teach you. I went to app, but I have a degree in advertising. I took photo classes to keep my
Yeah.
GPA up, but they
Yeah.
didn't really have much of a photo program then, I don't think. But from now it seems like they're actually teaching you, hey, this is what it's going to be like when you get out in the real world. You're going to have to know how to do this and
Yeah.
this and this, as opposed to just, hey, take some pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, your portfolio looks great. Good luck to you.
Dude, that's the most valuable information. That's what I
Yeah.
wish. So I felt like with SCAD, I felt like anyone I've ever worked next to that had the same degree and was the same age, same level of experience, I felt like I had worlds of knowledge over them.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't go through my program. And so I've been really excited about SCAD because of that. My friend calls me a SCAD snob because I'm always plugging SCAD. But I really feel like it's worth it if you dedicate your time to it. You really learn. But what I wish they did better was I took a class on business management.
Right.
And it's mandatory. So you have to learn how to market yourself as a photographer.
That's
But
great.
they're teaching you in that class, they're teaching you how to interview. They're teaching you how to develop your portfolio and craft your portfolio for the jobs that you want. They're teaching you how to budget appropriately for like equipment you might need, which is super important. All of those things are important. I wish that was like you had to take that class every semester for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was so much to learn there and you would just be so much more prepared. Because I mean, you come out into the real world and your head's just spinning, and the things you're expected to do as an assistant. I mean, I didn't go that route. Like I went the production route. So
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of ways it was a lot easier because we're hard on our assistants. I
Uh-huh.
mean, yeah, because you like there's a lot of people wanting to be an assistant to us, and you got to know how to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was just listening to a book on Richard Avedon, and to be an assistant for that dude, I mean, you start off at like number 4, sweeping the floor of the studio and getting paid not even enough to survive,
Yeah,
and cleaning toilets and shit. And then eventually you maybe get to move up if he likes you and you're learning enough stuff. Yeah. But
totally.
yeah, it's not. I was never an assistant. I was an assistant to my father shooting
Mm-hmm.
weddings when I was
Mm-hmm.
15.
Mm-hmm.
But then I
But
think,
that's valuable. I mean, that's
yeah, so
that's
that was
on your
good.
feet. That's quick work, and I think a lot of assisting and the knowledge that you gain in the beginning that you're not ready for is the stress management of like not letting someone else down or
Uh-huh.
like client pressure. You're not ready for that.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
learn that later.
Yeah,
But
I started
shooting
shooting
weddings,
weddings at 16. My first wedding on my
yeah.
own
Oh
was
wow.
16 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew from a very early age what stress was. That's
Yeah.
somebody's biggest day.
That's probably why I handle it pretty decently now, is because
Yeah.
I started off so young. I never thought about that because now I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this sucks, but we'll get through it or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Or I've got to get this done quickly. We'll be fine with it. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started, okay, so when you first started, it was just 2 of you?
Yes, Alexis and I. Yeah. So
Okay.
we were the team at Springs. And then we
And then
left
you
and
just
came
went
over. And
over together.
so I was shooting. I would produce the shoot and then I was shooting.
Okay.
And then she would tech for me and retouch.
Okay.
And I would manage the relationship of the
Right.
client. And then we had a really amazing unicorn of a stylist, Chelsea Kimmery, who is now in Atlanta.
I think
That
she's in
did
Raleigh
all of
now.
she's in Raleigh?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
She
you're thinking
she
of Chelsea.
left she left Atlanta and moved to someplace in Raleigh. Or at least she's with an agency in Raleigh.
You know who that is? That's a different Chelsea. That's oh shoot, I can't think of
Oh
her
no,
last name.
you're right. It is. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally different Chelsea.
She's
Yeah.
amazing
You're
too.
right.
And they're friends. And
Okay.
I've worked with both of them. But Chelsea Kimmery is and it's Chelsea Mueller now.
Yes, I
Not
know.
Chelsea.
Yeah, sorry. I got the two Chelseas mixed up in my head. But yes, you're right. She's still in Atlanta. She
Yes,
had a baby,
yes,
right? She's the
yes,
one
she
with the
did.
baby. Okay. I have the
About
two of
6
them.
months after I did. So
Yeah.
we've been playing phone tag for the last like 2 years trying to figure out getting these girls together. So but yeah, so Chelsea was a big part of building that too, because I mean she did hair, makeup, wardrobe, and set
Yeah, she's
for
unbelievable.
this client. Yeah, she's unbelievable.
Yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
She's great. She's great. So she's actually getting into some art direction now. She was doing art direction for Stitch Fix.
Yeah,
And
I
now,
was shot down there a couple of times, and she was my art director, and
yeah,
she's probably my one of my favorite, not my favorite art director to
yeah,
work with there, because she knows what she wants, and you're not sitting there just shooting and shooting and shooting and waiting, and she'll just like, we got it, let's go. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's great. She's great. And she's got that like fashion experience that's not my wheelhouse. I
yeah.
have a lot of people at Salt Paper and it is their wheelhouse, which is great. So I just let them handle that. Like
Well, that's what
Mackenzie.
Henry Ford said. He basically just hires everybody who knows what they're doing. He was like,
Yeah,
I don't know how to do all this stuff, but I hire people who do, and
yeah,
that's why I'm successful.
that's exactly right. You can't
Yeah.
do everything
Mm,
yourself. Definitely
yeah.
not. I mean, when we were doing everything ourselves, like Alexis and I, when it was just us and Chelsea, um, you know, we did everything ourselves, but we had one or two accounts and
Right.
then some tiny like one-off jobs,
Yeah.
but that's all we could handle because it was
Yeah.
all consuming, you know. And then you think about it now, like we turn these 3-day lifestyle shoots with set builds, like we might be a month from start to finish, like from conception to job wrap, maybe a month and a half if it's a Lowe's or something and it's
Yeah.
huge. But it's crazy because
That's great.
it used to take so much longer. But now that there's so many hands on deck,
Yeah.
it doesn't take long.
That's very
So
cool. So
yeah.
how do you find new clients? I mean,
Um,
because I mean, as for a photographer, I basically go to ad agencies and like, hey,
yeah,
you need somebody. But I was wondering, as a production company, because
yeah,
I know Lowe's doesn't really have an ad agency, at least not for the stuff I've shot for them. I went through a production company out of
yep,
Greensboro. So
yep,
how did you guys like slot into Lowe's, or how did you get, say, Krispy Kreme or
yeah.
that kind of thing?
Well, oddly enough, the big clients are all relationship based. So
I believe
the
that.
little clients, the small, no, I shouldn't say little clients, but the ones that are really consistent, but require like 3 or 4 people to run them.
Right.
Those pretty much have come in from the web.
Okay.
Um, or word of mouth, but really word of mouth is how we're getting our bigger clients. So, we'll have, we had a client that left Krispy Kreme and she found us at Krispy Kreme and she left Krispy Kreme and went to Lowe's and she got us a meeting with Lowe's and she said, I can't guarantee that it's, going to work out. I don't know if they're looking for anybody, but it'll be nice for them to know you because you're so close in proximity. And even if you get like 1 or 2 jobs a year out of it that are tiny, that'd be great. And at the time we didn't have our second studio space or our wood shop or anything like that. So I was teasing that we're like a hermit crab. We grow into our space, that's, I guess, how it works. But my husband now manages all the set builds too. So he does the money and the set builds. That's like
Oh
his thing.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's very busy, but he's got a team of some really great people, like 4 or 5 people now. That are pretty much all hands on for product management and set build. But we just hired someone to do inventory management and she's amazing. And that's been a game changer for the business too, because now when clients send their stuff in, we know exactly where it is.
Yeah, that's
It's all
probably good.
scanned in, which is a no-brainer. You need that. But when you have projects going on that are as large as we are, and some of them overlap, it's like it's all you have to do is lose somebody's stuff one time and they're
Oh
not
yeah.
going to call you again, So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one of those necessary things. But yeah, so word of mouth really.
Okay.
And it's fun to watch it unfold because we've been in the business 6 years now. So November will be starting of year 7. for Salt Paper. And it's been fun to see, especially through COVID. We were fortunate to have, people take us with them when they went different places.
Right.
So that we've grown that way too.
So how'd you come up with
But,
that?
Salt Paper is,
I'm sure that's a question you get a lot, but I
yeah,
have never heard
that's
the
okay.
answer.
Well, how Salt Paper is like a very basic analog form of photography, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you can attest to the fact that like this business gets really convoluted and like, well, we'll just say annoying.
Yes.
And a lot of times, especially in production and with corporate, it gets a lot stickier than it really needs to be.
Oh yeah.
Like, think about it. You do what you say you're going to do. You give the client what they want, and you do consistent work transparently.
Okay.
How simple. That's
Yeah.
all you have to do. That's your job, right? That's your
Right.
job. And so I'm like, okay, well, if we check all those boxes and we do it consistently, we should be fine. And that's been pretty good for us. So basically I wanted I wanted to name the business after an analog process because I wanted a back to basics approach to business.
Okay.
Not necessarily a back to basics approach to photography, but I'm still waiting on somebody to call me and ask me to shoot a film campaign because I'd be all over that.
Absolutely. So do you guys do both video and stills? I mean, do you do motion work?
Yeah, we have been doing some motion work. We do a lot of stop motion work because that's pretty popular for like reels and things like that, and that UGC content. And a lot of times when, we're shooting a set build, the camera's stationary anyway. So it's fun to throw a GIF in the end, for Pinterest or something. But we started doing video for Krispy Kreme also. So we do like a lot of food video. And we're still using vendors for that at the moment. But it's just like anything else. We hire our contractors that we like, and yeah. So yeah, we're a little bit of video. We're dabbling, but I think it's gonna take off. We did a billboard. Bring this full circle. The guy that I worked with so closely in New York, we did a billboard for Krispy Kreme with him a couple years ago for their Times Square location. So, and he actually won an Addy for that.
Really?
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's very cool.
So, yeah. So I try to, anytime I can learn a little more about video, I try to do so because it's not my craft,
Right.
I mean, I could screw around with a DSLR video if I had to, and I've done that, but that's, not what we need.
Right.
Really. Most days.
Well, you could just do nothing but Instagram, TikTok content.
Right. Right. I mean, I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff for our Instagram now, and it's pretty fun. It does pretty well too. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. People are super interested in like the shot and then how you got it. So it's fun to show like the BTS and the lighting situation, and then you show the final shot.
Yeah, I think that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And now, from what I'm seeing from the iPhone 15, you can just use that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a place for UGC content. I hear through the grapevine that there's some pretty big clients. I haven't worked with them myself, but they'll light everything and they'll shoot it with an iPhone. Because I think it used to be, and I don't think this is the case anymore, but it used to be that on TikTok and Instagram, if you shot with the iPhone, no matter the quality of the content, Instagram knew it.
Right.
And so they considered it more UGC than something that you would upload.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it would do better in the algorithm.
I can see that.
Yeah. But I think now they've caught on to that. And I think it's more visual than it is what it was shot with.
Right. Well, I did a thing in, where was I? I was Grand Central towards the end of COVID. And it was for Hallmark, and they had put up a bunch of stuff inside Grand Central, a bunch of promo pieces, and they wanted it shot and all this other stuff. So, but you couldn't take anything in there with you. They didn't get the permit to bring in even a tripod or a monopod. So it was literally everything had to be handheld.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I was shooting, And then they told me they wanted video as well. So I said, okay. So I
Mhm.
had my DSLR and I thought, well, I'll just click the video and shoot with it. But I also had my iPhone. And as I was walking,
Mhm.
shooting, I was noticing it was a little bumpy. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to smooth this
Yeah.
out in post. Let me try my iPhone. So I got the iPhone and just walked, because I'd shot some stuff with my iPhone previously. I had the 13 and dropped it
Mhm.
in with some other stuff I'd shot with my DSLR. And you
Mhm.
could tell, but we really had to pay attention to tell the difference.
Yeah, and it depends on the use of the video too, because sometimes it's like, why
Yeah, and
not?
this was web. They were going to use it just on
Yep.
their
Perfect.
website or whatever. So I sent them both, and I was like, "Hey, do you want me to send you?" I sent them a clip of each. I was like, "Do you want the DSLR video or the iPhone video?" So like, send me all the iPhone video.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he liked it better because it was smoother.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it does all that for you.
yeah,
There's there are a bunch of directors that are doing these fun little indie films on like shorts and stuff on iPhones.
yeah. I can see that.
I mean, yeah, especially if you have a gimbal for it. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's awesome.
Oh yeah. It
It's
still
great.
looks a little weird to show up and like try and shoot something. Like just have your iPhone. I'm sure your client would be
Yeah.
like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had prior to you showing up
Yeah.
with your iPhone. Can you imagine?
I'm just gonna shoot on my iPhone. You cool with that? I can
Trust
do that.
me, just trust me, trust me.
Yeah, it'll be fine. You'll be
I'll just airdrop you all the content at the end of the
yeah.
shoot. I'm gonna build it in an iMovie. It's
Do you get
perfect.
that a lot? Do you get clients saying just give me a hard drive?
Yeah, and I say I don't do that.
Because I have okay, I did it for one. I was shooting along with video. So we were doing a thing for
Mhm.
this Zumo streaming content. It's just coming out through Comcast, NBC, whatever. And we're in Atlanta shooting, and I was shooting behind the video guys. And they were like, it was for a production company owned by Accenture, which is the agency I was shooting for out of LA.
Mhm.
And they were like, just give me, as you shoot, just dump everything onto these hard drives. And that's the way they want
Mhm.
it. They didn't want any adjustments to it.
Yeah,
I didn't like it, but I was like, it was for a
yeah. I think
friend, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. But
it's interesting because we now that you say that we do that with video, depending. So
yeah,
when we work with Krispy Kreme, we send at the end of the day the Digitech.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not what you call them in the film world, but the tech will upload everything to a hard drive, and then the art director flies back with it.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so their agency builds all the content. Um, and it's what it needs to be, and it's what the client has agreed upon. But there's always things that make me a little crazy, like when the highlights go magenta, or
Oh yeah.
just things that like should be leveled out or balanced out. And it's hard to say like, yeah, I shot that when you're not the one processing that
Uh-huh.
and can in control of the final. So I never do that with my imagery.
Yeah, what I try
I
if they want it, if they say we want the raw files, like I'll give you a
yeah,
DMG file. So then I
yeah.
can
I,
go
I'll
in
do.
and
Yep.
process it.
Good for you. Yeah. So I'll do a high res TIFF,
Yeah.
and we'll do it. Say, we're gonna batch process this so that I know all the color is right.
Uh-huh.
I know all the shadows are correct and the highlights are holding, and like I just and it's easier when you're shooting in studio because every shot is very calculated.
Right.
But when you're doing some sort of not on the fly, but you're doing some sort of like lifestyle shoot where you're off tripod and you're moving around, say it's like fashion or product or something like
Yeah.
that, some of those smaller jobs, like I need to put my eyes on it. I can't just
Well, yeah, and then
maybe
just
I'm
the things like
I
the
just
sun
can't do that.
changing. Yeah, and
No,
going,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean there are adjustments that have to be made you
Yeah, I
know
learned my lesson on that the hard way. Years ago, I was shooting for Belk, and a art director who'd been there like 20 years said, "Just give me the raws. I shoot as well. I know what I'm doing. You can just send me the raw files." Yeah, I sent her the raw files, and what did she do? She just converted them. She didn't make any adjustments at all, and just made them
Mhm.
all immediately into JPEGs and dropped them in
Mhm.
her layout. And then the VP of marketing lost her mind. And so then I had to go in and try and explain that, and it was too late at that point. So I was like, never again.
No, I think we've all learned that lesson though,
Yeah.
because you want to make the client happy.
Right.
And it's a fine line, like we deal with this out all the time. I was just having a conversation with an art director yesterday, one of our art directors, and I was like, it's just difficult to navigate different personalities. And, some art directors on client side assume that they know exactly what you're doing, but maybe they don't have that amount of experience to know how to do it to the level that you know how to do it. And there's a reason that we're the ones handling that and not an internal team. There's a reason that they hire an external team, but the people that are really wonderful to work with are the ones that are like, oh, you're the expert. And that collaboration, that client and crew collaboration is so important. I
agree.
I don't know the inner workings of, a lot of my clients, I'm lucky enough that I've worked with them long enough that I do understand the inner workings, but I'm not at the office every day. I don't hear like the conception of the campaign. I get the deck at the end, and then I execute based on what I'm given. So I don't know the VP that I've never met. I don't know what her preference is on one or two things. So I rely on my client for that. And, those little quirks, they'll work through with us, but we've got pretty good client relations, but every now and then,
Yeah, well, I get it.
What you deal with, I guess.
Yeah, I totally get it. So out of your whole career to this point, what's been your favorite project?
Ooh. I've been really loving the work we've been doing with Lowe's. The decor, especially the decor projects. Watching those come together is so fun. The trends, like, our team will start building, they'll start building a set like, a month before the shoot. Sometimes 2 weeks, don't get me wrong. Like, they have to flip them around pretty quickly sometimes. But our art directors will do the specs, and they'll do the designs, and then you'll see the CAD, and then you watch it come to life in the studio, and then you watch it get painted and decorated. And some of it's really cool. Our client that we work with at Lowe's that does the decor stuff, her name's Caroline. She is so much fun. Her eye is so cool. Everything's pink. Everything's like rainbow. Everything's just like, she's perfect for trends. And it's so fun to execute her visions. And then, because I'm a photo nerd, like I'm a light geek. So watching it get lit up is just the best part. It's like the icing on the cake, right? Like you add in your streaming light, and then you've got like your little bit of fill, and then like, oh, let's get this highlight right on the dishwasher. It's so cool to see it all happen. And these projects are so massive, and like coming into that area of work has been fun. It's been a learning experience, but they've been willing to let us have a lot of freedom, and it's been a lot of fun. So we're actually doing a decor project next week, and the set has a couple arches in it, and it's really pretty. I can't wait to see it.
Who lights it? Is that somebody from with you guys, or do you hire assistants to come in and light it, or how's that working?
Yeah, I work with so Alex Barrymore is shooting this next one. We've also been working with Graham Suggs quite a bit. So they do a lot of our Lowe's work, those two guys. And I'll work with them just because I'm the one hearing I'm on the meetings, and Stacy's on the meetings, and our art director's on the meetings. And so we'll come up with a concept for how we want to light the space, with the art director. What time of day is it? Is the light warm? Is it cool? Is this a project for paint? Because the paint projects, they aren't as interesting because we have to light them a little more flat, because they don't want to see the gradient. They want to see the texture of the paint, and they want, so that, like, the Stainmaster stuff isn't as fun from a lighting perspective, but the trends, man, are so fun. We can, we get the gobos out, and we have like texture on the wall. We've shot through lead glass to get like, the wavy, light. We'll source old windows. But it's fun. Yeah, it's fun to work with Dylan. He's the one doing the art direction. from the beginning, because we can talk about all of those substrates beforehand and how light's going to play off of certain tile. And like, is this the best decision for, should we put the window on this side or should we put it on that side? How are we going to frame this? So when you walk into an already created space, you don't get that luxury. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great when you can make your own space and do it the way you want it. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. I think that stuff has been the most fun for me, but I do love shooting food. Like that's
really,
yeah, I am a food photographer. That's where my interest lies. So we work with Firebirds, Woodfire Grill too. And I've gotten to do a lot of creative direction for them every now and then. They'll say like, this campaign needs to be a little bit special. So we'll say, okay, so I'll make a deck, and that's fun from concept through completion too. And then because we're starting to dabble in like creative direction. That's a service we're going to start offering pretty heavily next year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And we've been asked to, for the last year, we've been working with First Leaf Wine, which is a wine subscription box. And we've done some really beautiful work for them too, because we've been able to kind of craft the campaigns on our own, which has been really nice.
Yeah, that's nice when you get to have that kind of control.
Yeah, and you're building it like as a primarily like as a photo studio, you're looking at it from the point of execution. So you're starting with, what am I capable of, right? You're not starting with, what does the client want and how do I reverse engineer this? It's like, what can I do to make this really cool? Like we did a rosé shot. It's probably one of my favorite shots we've done. And it was so simple, but the execution was so big. So we built this, acrylic tank, and we put water in it, and we got air compressors, and we were moving the water around. And our food stylist, have you worked with Priscilla Browning?
I don't think so. I don't do food.
Oh,
yeah. I can't stand food.
Oh man, that's so funny. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I've done it twice. I'm like, I don't ever want to do it again.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, you either love it or hate it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But we put some pavers in there, so it looked like the edge of a pool.
Oh yeah.
And then we made the wine bottles in there, the rosé collection that they were offering in there, and we lit it like real harsh light, like a sunny day.
Oh wow.
And the kick from the side was a little bit amber. We gelled it, so it like it was this blue water, pink rosé bottles, white pavers, and this bright sun, and the water kind of picked up the amber highlights, and we just moved the water around, and we actually made a GIF out of it too, and it was really cool. But
that's very cool.
That was really fun.
Yeah, see, to me that sounds interesting. That sounds fun.
Yeah. We also did in that same tank. The next shot was they did an eco wine collection.
Okay.
And so we built a terrarium inside of that tank.
Really?
Yeah, and we put little koi fish swimming around, and there was moss and rocks, and we had like the 3 eco wines in there. I'm gonna send them to you after this.
Yeah, dude, cool. That's very cool.
Those were 2 of my favorite shots, because I concepted them, and then seeing them come to life was super cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely want to see those.
Yeah, I'll send those to you.
Okay, so we're starting to run out of time. So I have 2 questions to end this whole thing. One is brand new that I just stole from a friend of mine who has a podcast called Rocker Dogs Podcast, which is basically talks to musicians who have dogs and talks about the whole conversation about their dogs. But so we'll start with that one.
Fun.
If you had a contract for you to show up at an event or to work with a client or like a musician, that kind of thing, what would your rider be? Like, what would the unusual part of your rider be? Like the Van Halen's like no whatever green M&Ms or whatever it was, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing. I don't know, very particular, but pretty easygoing. That's my disclaimer. Oh, I don't know. I wish you would have asked me that before. I could have come up with something.
Well, I was like, I don't know. I've listened to this podcast multiple times, but for some reason yesterday it just hit me. I was like, I'm going to steal that question.
Like either I must have or I do not want, right? Like it's
Yeah, something like that. And you know, it's
yeah,
basically
something like
just something like psychotic, just so you know they're paying attention to the rest of the writer.
yeah.
So you know that they're going to have your proper lighting and they're going to have your proper cameras and whatever.
Yeah.
What's the thing you stick in there that says,
Oh, oh, the one thing that I always pack that the photographers forget and they roll their eyes at me because they hate it, I think, is that Lindsay Adler modifier that has the gobos in it and it's straight
yes,
to light. I use that thing all the time. All the time. And I love it. Sometimes I make my own little gobos or we'll shoot through like we were on set with Graham the other day and they were teasing, they were calling it the Dapple Mints Pro with the Dapple bottom jeans. And they um but really like I don't care where it comes from as long as I have like some varying light because I don't
right.
like things to be flat or to stream. But yeah, that Lindsay Adler has been my it's just like a lens, with the gobo at the end or the
Yeah.
top.
I've never
Um
played with one of those, but I was over at Belk shooting a couple of weeks ago, and Todd had just gotten one. Their photographer over there, and he was
uh-huh.
playing, and he was like, "You gotta come see this. Come over here." And he like drug me over to
Yeah.
his set to show me all the different little things he could do with it.
I
And
love it so
that
much.
was
And
it.
my dad just got a CNC machine and I want to
Yeah.
start playing with like cutting out my own little
Yeah.
gobos. Um, but I think it'd be cool. We were talking about, building when we build our sets, if we get a unique window,
Hmm.
just making a vector of that window shape
Oh yeah.
and then
Yeah.
cutting out the gobo on the CNC so that we have the actual shape to stream across the
Right.
floor instead of like faking it or having to modify it later. Um, but yeah,
That's
that probably that
okay.
thing.
All right.
But yeah, but that's not too out of the norm.
That's
I'll think of
okay.
something in a day and I'll email you.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous.
That's usually the way it works with me. I'm like, I can't think of anything. And then I was doing one of these with a guy. There's a band called Bad Wolves at the time. This guy was the guitarist, and he had his own podcast with the bass player or drummer or somebody. And he was like, "Here's one of the questions we asked." And he asked me, I was like, "Dude, I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It was like something to do with food, or I don't know." And I was just like, "Man, I have no idea." And then after we ended it, I was like, "Damn, we should have said this, or should
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
Okay, so
My,
last question. What is the strangest, coolest, or most unusual thing that's happened to you since you've started all the way from SCAD to now?
oh,
And that
the
can go
profession.
I can go all over the place. I had one dude one time was just like being asked to be on a podcast. I was like, okay. So that was, it was anything from that to we lost, our gas was stolen in the middle of South America,
Yeah.
on
Oh,
set
God.
sort of thing.
Well, luckily nothing bad yet. I mean,
That's good.
we've had some close calls with files and stuff. Like there was a Alexis is great with file management, so we don't usually have any issues there. And she's really diligent about backing everything up. But like now that I tell you this, I mean, I'm gonna have a problem. But I think the coolest thing that's happened was recently we did an Adobe Live. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, I was shocked that I got called to do an Adobe Live. But I think it came from before that, the coolest thing that had ever happened was we got a call from Adobe and they wanted to come do a promo on the studio. So Adobe did a promo on the studio, which was super cool. So it was all of us working and concepting and then shooting this. We did a waffle stack stop motion.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
and they asked us to use Lightroom, obviously,
Right.
and that's different than Capture One. So we had to
Yeah.
learn a new program. But all of the post-production stuff that we do is Adobe. Like we do, um, we retouch in Photoshop, obviously,
Uh-huh.
and then when Alexis was building the GIFs, she used Premiere. A lot
Yep.
of times she'll just export them from Photoshop and do them that way, but she did it in Premiere this time so she could put
Yeah, I've
music
never
in
done them
it.
in Premiere. I've done it in
Yeah.
Photoshop before, but never Premiere.
I think it's a little faster.
Is it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, I feel like you have a little more control too, because you can, like, if you want certain spots to speed up and certain
Right.
spots to slow down, you can manage that.
Oh, I
But
need to try that then.
yeah, it's cool. And
Did you
Premiere's
guys?
so intuitive.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah, I'm happy with it. I like using it. I use it for this as
Hmm.
well. Do you,
Yeah.
when you
You
were shooting
do a lot of
Lightroom,
sound editing,
yeah, yeah, it's very cool.
which
There's
I
so much
just
stuff you can do
learned.
without even having to leave.
I know. You
Yeah.
open like there's an audio editor that's a
Hmm.
plugin or something, and you open it up. I'm gonna sound like an idiot to somebody who actually does this, but
It'll be.
but when it visualizes sound and you
Yeah,
can actually lasso out the bumps and pops and kicks, it's like, where did that is that's insane.
yeah, it's
That
really
just blows my
cool.
mind.
And then the new way you can use Photoshop now, like spread out. Like I did one the other day, I shot everything. It was a thing for Bosch, but I shot everything vertical. And I started thinking, what if they want this horizontal? But they didn't say anything about wanting it horizontal. I just was afterwards, I said, would you guys want this horizontal? And they were like, we're probably good with vertical. But I said, well, here's what it would look like. And I literally just expanded it out and told
Generative
Photoshop to
fill.
add to it. And it added.
Yeah.
I was like, holy wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where Alexis touched on that a little bit in our Adobe Live, because a lot of times we'll be asked to do a shot and then later they'll say like, hey, did you have another version of that? Because we really would like to use it for the web banner too. It's being really well received. Or,
Right.
hey, we need a little more headspace for text. And
Hmm.
that just solves the problem, which
Yeah.
is crazy. I mean, AI is nuts. That's a topic for another day.
I wish they had that about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, because I had a shoot and we shot it horizontal and they liked and vertical, but they liked the horizontal with the model
Mhm.
and everything. Like, but we need it vertical and we need like
Yep.
another story built onto this building. So I
Got
had
it.
went in Photoshop, and at the time they'd just come out with the content aware thing. I
Yep.
just went in and circle stuff and it started
Yep.
building it. And then I had to go in
Yep.
and redo it, but
Yeah.
I still did it in a day as opposed to 3 days. But now I
Yeah.
could have done it in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But so
Since
when you were using Lightroom, were you shooting
Mhm.
directly into Lightroom like Capture One? Were you
Yeah.
tethered?
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
done that. I didn't even know you could do that
Yeah.
with Lightroom.
Yeah. It's actually like Capture One's like Lightroom on steroids, you know?
Yeah,
Like I think a lot of people, I never did. I never used Lightroom until I started working with Adobe a little bit.
right.
And I enjoy it. I mean, it's more intuitive than Capture One. Capture One's kind of like working on your manual setting versus working on like aperture aware or something.
Okay.
Like Lightroom's like very intuitive for someone
Right.
who hasn't done it. Whereas like you have more options with capture.
Okay. Yeah, I usually don't process in Capture One, but I just shoot directly to it. And I'll tweak while we're on set and then
Mhm.
have my Digitech process it out and then take it back and either I'll tweak it or I'll have a retoucher take it from there. But if I'm doing it
Yeah.
myself, I take the files and then I go into Photoshop and or Lightroom or Bridge or
Mhm.
whatever I'm using and tweak from there. But I usually don't do a lot of it in Capture One.
Yeah. I know Alexis has started doing more and more in Capture One because it's getting more and more sophisticated, like with every version. So there, I did a Capture One class when it not when it first came out because I was using it in school, but when I first came out of school, I went and there was like Capture One Pro was new or something.
Mhm.
And I went to Atlanta and I did a seminar for like 2 days just to learn how to really
Right.
use it well. And they're really pushing, their reps are really pushing that like it will eliminate Photoshop. We do not need Photoshop anymore. Now, give me one retoucher that you've ever met or talked to that
No
will
way.
stop using Photoshop. No way, not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think if you were in a pinch and something weird was happening with your licenses in Adobe and you couldn't access something, you could get it done in Photoshop or
Right.
in
In a
Capture One.
capture. Yeah.
And she does a lot of she does, her levels, her color. Um she does some healing, like bigger healing
Okay. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She does highlight recovery if needed. Um Masking for whatever the reason may be at the time. Um, and then kind of like obviously all of the batch processing, like just to level each set to
Yeah.
itself. She does all of that in Capture,
Okay.
and then it saves her time
Yeah, I can see
in
that.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
Um,
Because we kind of do that. I'll have them if we're processing out and putting them on a hard drive processed out. I'll try and do a lot of that in Capture One. But I had a retoucher one time ask me, he wanted me to send him the specs on my camera, so he knew which camera I was using, what lens I was using, and then he was deciding between Lightroom and Capture One based on that. And I think even just because it was a Nikon, I think because I shoot Nikons, he was like going to process it in Lightroom as opposed to Capture One. And I didn't understand it. I just went, okay, you do your thing. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. So
that's
he's
really
way into it more than I am.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of time, I mean, I'm more aesthetic than I am techie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I really lean on people like him.
If it's real tech, I'm hiring somebody. Or if it's a lighting situation where I go, okay, I have a pretty good idea how to light this, but I will hire somebody I know who knows how to light it. I'm like, okay, you light it and then I will tweak it.
Dude, that's what I do every day. Like, I mean, Alex and Graham are like, I mean, they're great with light, and I'll tell them exactly what I want and they will execute it every time. And I think, for me, would I get there? Yeah, absolutely. It would take me twice as long as it takes them, but I think it's really fun. That process collaboratively is really fun and good for you for not, I mean, you're a great photographer and you're not afraid to ask somebody to help you do something. That's great. My ego is not that big that I am afraid to ask somebody to do something.
No, I'd rather have it look right and say, listen, I don't know how to do this. Because I had a shoot years ago. We were running 2 sets at the same time. One was more of a room set and one was just seamless. I was setting up the seamless. I had my other assistant. I was like, here's where I want the lights. Put them here, 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 and here. I think that'll light. I'm halfway through setting up the seamless. I walk past the room set and my assistant goes, hey, these lights, man, I was like, if you think I'm a dumbass and it's not going to work, just say it. Say this lighting scheme is not going to work the way you had it. He goes, well, I'm not sure it's going to look that great. I said, well, then let's do it the way you think it'll look good because you know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then we did it. I was like, okay, it looks great. Let's tweak this one a little bit here, tweak that one a little bit there, but otherwise it's perfect. And I'd rather have it look right than say, I know what the hell I'm doing. And then the client later go, this is crap.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like our job as commercial photographers is to answer a brief.
Yes.
Like it's not our work. It's our work, but it's not our work. Yeah. It's their work.
Right? My thing has always been make the client happy first.
Yep.
And then if there's something I want to try and there's time, I'll try that. And maybe they like it better. And if they don't, fine. We already captured what we know we had to have. And then we can still try something else over here if we have the time to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where your value comes in, like with your clients is like, oh, well, we asked for this, but then he gave us that, but then he gave us this. And that's,
especially when it works out and they like what you did, your version better. That's the best feeling.
And then eventually they're just like, hey, this is what the room looks like. I'm going to show up. Just have it lit. Tell me what you like.
I have a client like that. She maybe shows up like I shoot for once a year, and I go to shoot. She's like, you know what to do. I'll show up. 2 hours after you guys have already been there, kind of a thing.
Those relationships are the best.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
Speaking of that anxiety that you get, like with new clients and new relationships, even within an old client. I mean, it's so nice to just. Like the relationship can make or break the day. Really.
Oh, absolutely.
It really can.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Courtney, thank you. Thank you for doing this. This was fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You were fun to talk to.
Thank you. You were fun to talk to.
Well, thank you.